Thank you for tuning into the Sharing Ageless Wisdom podcast. Our podcast aims to feature senior industry experts in South Florida who will share valuable insight to help our community prepare for aging. We hope you'll benefit from this essential information. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Diana Cabassi. And today it's my pleasure to introduce you to my dear friend and esteemed colleague, Marlene Lieberman. Marlene is the president of Senior Care Planning and has an extensive background in the medical and senior care industries. And she uses that knowledge as an aging life care manager to help individuals facing ongoing health challenges and to navigate the healthcare industry. I came to the senior care industry after a long career in human resources and didn't know anything about this world. And when I met Marlene, she quickly became a trusted advisor who generously shares her wealth of knowledge with me. Good morning, Marlene. Thanks for coming to our show.
My pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
I'd like you to share a little bit about yourself with us today.
All right. Well, I am Marlene Lieberman, and I have a bachelor's degree in health education, and I have a master's degree in social work. And I have a big passion of working with older adults. And I hold a nursing home administrator's license, and I'm certified as an assisted living administrator. And my passion started where I had two elderly parents who constantly called me about every hour on the hour saying, "Could you help me? Can you help me? I need help." And my mother had a twin sister and she had a husband. And so they always needed help with medical appointments. They were in the emergency room all the time. So I was constantly helping them. And I started my career actually working in a nursing home as a director of social work and admissions, and I opened that nursing home. And then eventually it evolved to becoming an assistant administrator and then an administrator. And I worked with that company for 28 years. And so I think that I just love problem solving, love connecting people, got to know the healthcare world actually very deeply. And so I was able to help my parents, help my family, and then just continued on my path of opening my own business. And so I've had my business over 14 years as a healthcare professional and as an advocate and helping families navigate this crazy system because every day it's forever changing. We know as our healthcare system changes, our government changes, the rules changes, everything else changes, that I know that I can make a difference for everyone. So that's what it is about me.
And a huge difference you make, Marlene.
Well, thank you.
I'm always impressed with your wealth of knowledge. Even last night, I sent you something.
You did. Diana got a call last night and said somebody called me and needed help, didn't have many resources. Their air conditioner broke and they needed fixed and it was going to cost a fortune. What do I do? So I quickly texted her and said, call this person. And it was just great to be able to answer her. I think it was like 10:30 at night you called me, and it was great. So I hope she gets some help.
I certainly hope so, too. And so, Marlene, not too many people know what care managers do, and care managers have a couple different titles. You're referred to as aging life care managers, right? And geriatric care managers. Can you talk to us a little bit about the different titles that your work holds?
Many people call themselves many different things, and some care managers are social workers. Some are aging life care professionals. Some are called advocates. Some are called geriatric care managers. And we do have an association that's called the Aging Life Care Association. And you have to meet criteria. You have to have a master's degree and you have to have a certain amount of hours behind you that are supervised. And then you have to take an exam. So the Aging Life Care Association has a website that you can actually go on, and some people who are searching for professionals go on the website, and you can find professionals that belong to the association, and you can find people by zip code, and you can actually narrow it down by zip code, and you can locate a professional. And some are full profession, or some are full members, and some are associate members. And then you have other people that are social workers that cannot belong to the association if you don't meet the criteria, but they call themselves advocates. So those are the many different things that people call themselves. And so I think the next question will be, how do you find somebody that can do these things? So a lot of people don't know where to find professionals to help them. And the next thing I'll get into is like, what do care managers do? Because there's a lot of different things that people do. But how do you find someone? So most of the time, families are overwhelmed and don't know where to turn. And a lot of times people will go to their friends, they'll go to neighbors, they'll go to people who have had challenges before. What did they do? Or maybe they'll find someone like you who does home care, who provides an amazing resource to help people stay at home. So a lot of times they'll just find resources anywhere. They'll go into, we used to call yellow pages, or I don't know if anyone, I mean, they'll find the community directory for things. Now people use the internet, so they'll just Google, my mother needs this, my father needs this, or I need help at home, or I have a loved one, or they'll look for different things. And so sometimes you don't even know what you're getting, you don't know who you can trust. Now we have things like Nextdoor, where there's things in the community where people write things and say, do you know someone who have helped you before? I sometimes get referrals from the internet, from people from Nextdoor in the community. So a lot of times people do Google searches and they'll find things on Google. Like I have reviews on Google. Sometimes I get people because they see my reviews. So it's very widespread. So a lot of times you just don't know where you're getting your resources from. That's how people don't know.
And it's critical to deal with licensed individuals, people who have a wealth of knowledge such as you do. And the funny thing is you mentioned the yellow pages. So when I first started the business, I had an elderly woman call me up, and I always ask people how they heard about me. And when I first started the business in 2012, I put a listing in the white pages and the yellow pages, and I asked her how she found me. And she said, well, I found you in the white pages. How else am I going to find you? And so I don't even think that they deliver those pages anymore. I can't remember the last time I saw one. I don't even know if they're published in print. But anywhere, I am, as you know, very grateful for all the support that you have given me and others in the community. And so can you share a little bit with us about the type of things that you do to provide assistance?
Certainly. So it's interesting because a lot of times people will call and they'll say, tell me what you do. And I say to people, well, it's almost impossible to tell you all the things I do because there's so many. Why don't you tell me what you need? Right. And so in the podcast, I think what I'll do is just touch on a few things about that are really important. They're kind of like an overview. And then at the end, I'll give you my website so that way people can look. So the first thing is when people call, what I like to do is say, well, if you need something, there's something called an in-home assessment, and it's like an evaluation. What I would do is go to the home if that's possible, but that's just one thing that I do an evaluation to just see what is it that you may need if you don't know what you need for your loved one. So I would go and I make it very unobtrusive. Like it's more like a friendly visit because people get intimidated. So just have a friendly conversation. How are you doing? If their loved one can communicate, how are you doing? What's going on? And I can even eyeball an assessment without anyone even telling me anything about what's happening. I can do a safety evaluation, look at the house, see what's happening, like if there's any safety issues. But it's comprehensive, but very little needs to be said. So that way I can make a recommendation and have a plan of care, even on the first visit, and then talk to the family separately if that's appropriate. It's not always appropriate. That's just one thing that I can offer. I can also do a Zoom call if that's possible, but sometimes that's not even in the picture, but that's just one thing available. The other thing is that sometimes people have family members that live out of town and their loved one has to go to the doctor. And sometimes when people go to the doctor, they don't always get an accurate assessment of what's going on. The doctor doesn't with their loved one, or an older adult will go to the doctor and then the doctor says, "How are you?" And they go, "Oh, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong," but they've had 6 hospitalizations, multiple falls, and you never get an accurate picture. As you well know, when your caregivers go to the doctor, where they won't let them in the room, you never know what's going on. So as a healthcare professional, I'll go with your loved one, go to the appointment, get an accurate picture, and tell the family. Oftentimes I slip doctors notes and I'll say, "This is what's really happening, but please don't share it. Just have a conversation." Or I'll even encourage the family to be on a speakerphone during the appointment. So when you don't have a professional with your loved one, those things don't happen. Then I will write a summary and send it to the family. The other thing is I can help families track appointments, make sure they get where they're going, and those kinds of things, because sometimes people can't get to their appointments. So I do that as well. The other thing is, too, sometimes families call and they don't know what is appropriate type of living situation for their loved one. So what I do is I can do an assessment and talk about, should they stay at home with home care? Is, someone like Diana's company appropriate to provide home care to keep someone at home? Do they possibly need an assisted living community? Do they need a nursing home? Do they need adult daycare? Can they just maybe be out of the house during the day and have meaningful activities and maybe get a meal during the day? Do they need meals on wheels? Those kinds of things, because a lot of times families don't know what settings are available for their loved one. They just think they have to leave the house, but that's not always the case. But what kind of financial commitments do they need to have to do all these things? They may not know. So I try to give people all those options so they understand what's available to them. Then the next thing is about legal and financial things, about referring people to people in the community that are professionals. I don't know everything. I know that there are professionals in the community that people need to be connected with. There are elder law attorneys. Do people have powers of attorney? That is the thing that I ask the first time I speak with someone. Do you have a power of attorney for your loved one? Do you have a living will? Do you have a healthcare decision-making document? Because if your loved one at some point cannot execute a document, you cannot get that anymore. How important those things are in the beginning. So I always ask that. And even for them, sometimes people feel that, "Oh, I'm young, I don't need one." Well, if you're over 18, it's something to think about. So I always educate people on those kinds of documents. And then the biggest thing I get when people call me are, "Oh, I can't afford to pay for a lot of things, but my loved one isn't eligible for Medicaid because this is what someone told me." And I say to them, "Well, that's not 100% accurate. There's so many ways to be Medicaid eligible. Let me refer you to an elder law attorney." And those are the things that people really are not very well aware of. So I always refer to professionals in the community who are able to help them, because I work in conjunction with all of these healthcare professionals, but they need another level that I cannot give them. But it doesn't mean that I don't continue to work with them in collaboration with these other professionals. So that's another thing. And the one last thing that I think is really uncomfortable before I get into how I met Diana and how we kind of work together is about end of life care. And the thing I get a lot, and Diana and I have talked about this a lot, is about how uncomfortable people get talking about end of life care, which a lot of people call is hospice care. And when sometimes there are no other alternatives to care, And then people recommend hospice, which I just had a case the other day where three family members were not in sync with end of life care when all the medical professionals said this is appropriate. People often think that end of life care is, oh, they're going to end the life of my loved one. And it's a very uncomfortable discussion to talk about. What do you mean there's nothing more we can do? And so I always say is that end of life care is really sometimes a really wonderful thing where you can provide quality of life at end of life and give support to family members and give quality of life to someone where maybe there is nothing more other than giving love and support to someone at end of life, and that it shouldn't be a scary thing. It should be a beautiful thing where you can just get all the kind of support that you can get at end of life, if that's something that's appropriate for someone. So it shouldn't be a scary thing. It should be something to maybe be open-minded, but sometimes religious beliefs get in the way of that, and that's okay too. It's not for everyone, but just consider that that's called hospice, and it's something that if you maybe just want to hear about it, that's okay.
So, many of you, of course, most of you don't know me, but Marlene knows me very well. And I did lose my mom about a year and a half ago. And she did, towards the end of her life, around, I would say about the last 8 or 9 months of her life, she was on palliative care hospice, where basically they were just keeping her at home comfortable. And then the day that the time came for her to transition to a better living, we actually were told, she has less than 72 hours to live. And then we went into end of life hospice. And I have to tell you that the experience that we had with hospice for mom's transition was just amazing. These people are incredible people. The people that do this hospice work are such loving, caring people. So as Marlene says, it's nothing to be afraid of. On the contrary, we need to embrace them, because if we're alone in the end, we don't know what to do. But these people know exactly how to proceed and how to do things. And so did you want to share something else, Marlene?
Yeah, I want to say on that note, both of my parents were on hospice. And as a professional who knows this and does this all the time, it still was very difficult. And no matter how much I know, I still needed that support, that for both of my parents. And so I agree with you, is that it really helped me a lot.
And it's funny because sometimes, as professionals, we know things professionally and intellectually, but when it comes to things of the heart, and people that we absolutely love, it sort of doesn't register anymore because you're into your emotions about it. But anyway, so, Marlene, over the years, I have referred many of my clients to you for assistance. And can you share a couple of instances where you were able to help some people that I referred to you for help?
Yeah, so Diane and I met at a conference, and we just really connected, and is really a nice synergy because I refer to companies like Diana who provide support, and she refers to people like me who provide the support that I do. And so what was really nice is one day Diana comes, she goes, I have a family that really needs your help, and they need to get some financial assistance, and it's my family. And I was really touched by that, because anyone who can refer their personal family member to you is really nice. And that meant a lot to me. And so I helped them all the way through getting them on Medicaid and getting the financial assistance they needed. And then a year later, they called me back to do a renewal for their Medicaid. And that meant a lot. And then throughout the years, Diana has referred to me for people who need assistance, and she'll call me and say, oh, Marlene, I don't know, these people really need help. And so I'm able to get them care management services, and she's able to provide them with a companion. And then it's just this synergy where we work together all the time, and she does the companion care and I do the care management, and we're constantly in communication. And the family is just so grateful because it's really teamwork. It's teamwork and it's synergy. And sometimes, you know, it comes back, and then they stop a little bit and then they come back, but they'll always remember the kindness that Diana gave because her caregivers are just amazing. They
Thank
are.
you, Marlene.
They
Well,
really are.
it takes a village, as they say, and we have to work together for the better of all of the people on this planet. So, is there something that we didn't talk about that maybe you think would be important for people to know about care management?
I think the most important thing when people are looking for care managers, it's important that they really talk to the individual. They have to connect with the person that they're dealing with. Just like if they're looking for home care, they have to feel good about who they're working with. Sometimes people will call me and they'll say, oh, well, that person was less money than you, or that person this, or that person that. And I would say, you just have to feel good about what that person's going, what the connection you have personality wise. So some people, care managers, may have 10 care managers in their business. And the person you talk to, it may not be the care manager that you're hiring. And so I am a sole practitioner. It's only me, and you get me. Some people you get like when you call maybe a doctor's office and they tell you X and you may get 10 other people. So I think it's important to know, is it only you? Is it somebody else? What happens? What happens if something happens? Like people will say, well, if it's only you, what happens when you're not there? Yes. So those kinds of questions. But I think it's important to know that if there's 10 people in practice, who are you talking to? And make sure you get that person. Because not everybody connects on the same way. Not everyone's as supportive as you think. And you have to feel good. And not everyone does the same thing. I have a very comprehensive business. I do a lot of things that some other care managers don't do. So you just have to know, ask the right questions, know what you need, and, move forward.
So, Marlene, I know that you do a lot of extra things. Can you maybe give us a little bit of idea of what those things are? Because, you totally go outside the box, right?
Yeah. So some of the extra things that I do is if people need to go to assisted living and they need Medicaid assistance. So for assisted living, for people who cannot afford to pay the full price of assisted living, I guide people on how to get on the wait list for Medicaid to be able to get Medicaid, like get them in the right direction. And then if they're not eligible, I refer them to elder law attorneys. If they need placement for assisted living, I help them with placement. If they need help in nursing home placement, I guide them and try to help them for nursing home placement as well. Some care managers do not do placement for either assisted living or nursing home. And some people don't do Medicaid as well. So I will help them with Medicaid applications. And again, if they're not financially eligible, I will refer them to elder law attorneys as well. Some care managers don't deal with Medicaid, and sometimes they call me and refer their clients to me because they don't really work with Medicaid at all. So that's something different that I do that some other ones don't.
And that's a very valuable service because, it's unfortunate that many people get to the elderly state, if we want to call it, but, we're all on that path where we're getting older and not necessarily able to pay for our care. A lot of people think that the government's going to take care of you, and that's not necessarily the case. So it's critical to have an advocate on their side.
And another thing is about veterans benefits. So a lot of times people will call me about veterans benefits because they think that everyone's entitled to veterans benefits because their loved one was a veteran. But there's a lot of strict rules about veterans benefits that they may not be aware of. So I personally do not do veterans benefits, but I will refer them to someone who does, or guide them again to another healthcare professional or the VA, because there is a lot of money out there for the VA, but it just depends. Everybody's circumstance is just so different. So that's where I've been doing this for so long, like over 40 years. And so I have a lot of good contacts and relationships that I can send people to, that I feel so confident that they can help them. And that's what I love doing, is that I can connect them to the right people, because so many times people can make 30 phone calls and get 30 different answers. And I think that's the part that frustrates me the most, is they get poor information.
That's for sure. I can't tell you how many people always come to us as well. And, they're like that lady last night. They need to do help with financial assistance. And so, you always have the right answer.
I try.
You try. Yeah, you do. You may not try. You do. And so is there a way that people can get in touch with you that they would get directly to you?
So there's a few ways. So I have a website, and for people who are computer savvy, it is seniorcp.com. That will take you directly to the website, seniorcp.com. And the CP stands for seniorcareplanning.com. And otherwise, I have a phone number, which is 954-806-6035.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there anything else that you want to share, Marlene?
No, other than I love working with you, and I appreciate you having me on your podcast. And it is always a pleasure.
It is my pleasure always working with you. Thank you so much, Marlene, for all of this valuable information. For all of you tuned in, we will also put Marlene's contact information in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and found it valuable. If you want more content like this in the future, please subscribe to our podcast. This is podcast number 2. And follow us on social media, because we're always posting whatever the right term is, good content. Let us know what you think about the show, too. It's hopefully of value, and we certainly expect that we will be, as time goes by, providing much more content. And so if there are any topics in particular that you want to hear about, let me know that, too. And also, if you're inclined to perhaps be a guest on the show and are in South Florida in the senior care industry, leave us a message and we'll get back to you. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We'll see you in the next show. Have a great day.
Thank you.